Hi everyone, I am Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Equine Sanctuary. Today is Training Tuesday, April 27th, 2021, and we are going to talk about some troubleshooting when you're target training your snake. And one of the issues that commonly comes up during target training snakes is that sometimes the snake strikes at the target. So I'm going to go over some options with you as to what you can do if that happens. Now, we would all like for our target training sessions to go like this. This is Triangula, and she's a very experienced learner. She targeted out of her enclosure, and she's interacting with the target in a calm manner, and in fact, pausing at the target just as I want her to. But not every session goes like that. Sometimes things come up during target training, and so I have a whole bunch of troubleshooting guides that I've come up with for in-person classes that I teach. And I thought I would just take one of these categories, one of the most common things that happens when you're target training your snakes, and talk a little bit about it for Training Tuesday. And that is going to be this right here. What to do when the snake strikes at the target. So that's specifically what we're going to talk about right now. So this applies to the following type of learner: an advanced beginner or an intermediate learner with some targeting experience. They clearly understand the association between the target and the food, or the target and the reinforcer. They understand that interaction with the target is what earns them reinforcement, and the learner is not afraid of the target and does not view the target as something aversive. If you're starting out with a snake that doesn't fit into these categories, then you need a different class. I need to talk to you about troubleshooting in different ways. So when the snake strikes at the target, there are several options as to how you can handle that. The first one is that you can just ignore the strike and continue as though nothing happened. Here you can see this rat snake, Sargon, got really excited upon presentation of the target. I just ignored that, and when he interacted with the target in a way other than striking, I reinforced him. This is repetition 2. He's still pretty excited, and he strikes at the target, but I just ignore it. I present the target as I normally would, and when he interacts with it with no strike, I reinforce. And as you will see here by his third repetition, he's not striking at the target. He approaches it, and there's no strike, and I reinforce. You can ignore the strike and wait the snake out. So this would be for if the snake is repeatedly striking at the target. You just wait for them to stop striking, orient towards the target, and give you some behavior that you can reinforce, like tongue flicking at it, looking at it, moving towards it, doing some behavior involving the target that does not include striking. Here's an example of that with one of our Morelia Bredli. His name is Tanavik. And he's initially doing the target training correctly, but then he gets overexcited and he strikes at the target. And then he remains excited and maybe a little bit frustrated that he's not receiving reinforcement, and he just repeatedly strikes at that target. I just wait him out. I wait for him to stop striking. Now he's looking at the target. He's tongue flicking at it. He's focusing on it, and I'm actually counting in my head 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, until I got to 10 seconds, and then I reinforced. You can hold the target out of reach of the strike so that the snake can't reach the target when and if they strike, and then any calm movement towards the target you want to reinforce. Here's an example of that with one of our Morelia Bredli, Saru. Now, Saru has always had a habit of striking at the target. He understands exactly what that target means, and he always gets very excited upon initial presentation. And so I have learned that when I train with him, I always hold the target out of reach initially, or he will just strike at it repeatedly, even more so than you saw Tanavik doing, and it takes him forever to eventually stop striking at the target. And so with Saru, I hold the target out of reach. Now, as you saw there, he struck out several times, but he couldn't reach the target. And now he's much more careful about his behavior. Now he's gone from sort of that prepotent response where he has no impulse control and he's just striking at the target to gain his reinforcement or his reward, to carefully moving towards the target in a methodical manner. He's now thinking. He's concentrating, he's focusing. I am continuing to hold the target out of reach. It is nowhere near him. If he were to decide to strike out now, which is unlikely because now his body is stretched out, but even if he did strike, he wouldn't reach it. So I'm holding that target where he can still see it, but it's really out of reach. And my plan was to have him go about halfway across this log. And then when he's in a position where I feel like he's had enough, and I don't want him to become frustrated at this point and start striking or end the session and turn away from me, I give him the signal with the target that we're finished, that he can stop, and then I deliver his reinforcement. Or you can deliver the reinforcement before the snake strikes. So this is with a learner that you know is prone to strike, and you know that they're likely to do it, and so you don't give them the chance. You go ahead and deliver the reinforcement before the snake strikes. This is Bendu. He's a Morelia Bredli that's a fairly new learner, and when I start the session, he strikes right away. So I actually pause and disengage and come back a few seconds later, and now I'm going to make sure that I deliver the reinforcement before he has an opportunity to strike in the first place, and that worked really well. And with all of these, what you're hoping for is that that striking behavior extinguishes or goes away on its own, and it usually does. And so, like with these last two, holding the target out of range and then delivering the reinforcement before the snake strikes, you're going to gradually increase the time between showing the target and delivering the reinforcement, or you're going to gradually decrease the distance between the snake and the target until they're able to approach and interact with the target without striking at it. And then there are some other things that you can do, but we aren't going to talk about these today. And that's you can reward anyway, and I will occasionally do that if it's a very, very beginning learner and it's maybe their first or second experience with the target, because I want them to learn to interact with the target and that's going to earn them reinforcement. But I don't do that very often, and if I do it, I only allow it like once or twice, and then I move on to teaching them not to strike at it. You can try something else completely. So you can try abandoning the target training for a session or two, or even for that session, and try stationing traditional feeding for that time, or employ a puzzle or a maze, or you can just end the session altogether and try again later. Targeting is teaching an animal to touch an object with part of their body, and it's a great tool for asking the animal to cooperate in their own care by voluntarily following the target to come out of hiding, move from one location to another, exit their enclosure, go back inside their enclosure, move to a station, load into a carrier, shift into temporary holding, come out of an off-limits area when they're free, go into or come out of an exercise area, and to go to food. Remember that the target is also an extremely useful communication tool to signal the animal that's going to be fed, to let the animal know an opportunity is available to come out and exercise, to ask the animal to hold in position and remain still for things like examination, injections, medications, or diagnostics, and to let the animal know that you're going to remove them from their enclosure or pick them up so they aren't startled or surprised when you do this. And this is like teaching them that a specific target signals them that this is going to happen and they don't have a choice in it, but by at least letting them know that you're going to intrude into their enclosure, that you're going to remove them, that you're going to touch them and pick them up, they aren't startled by it, and that reduces a lot of defensiveness caused by fear and uncertainty. Remember that when an animal understands what's going to happen, it reduces fear, anxiety, and distress during interactions. When the animal has choice and control, including the ability to participate in an activity or not, welfare is improved. Remember, always be kind and love your animals, and to contact me if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.